get to France. Because the shit is going down in France. Now, what's going down in France? Well, there's lots of things going down in France, but what is being reported has to do with the very unusual step taken by French President Emmanuel Macron. Monsieur Macron, Monsieur President Macron. Mr. Macron was determined to lower, or rather, raise the retirement age for French retirees, I believe from 62 up to 64. And the French are pissed. They are majorly pissed. And they have taken out to the streets by the millions for a number of sustained days because they look at this as some bullshit austerity and a way that Macron was able to circumvent the vote of the parliament. This was actually forced through, or rather enacted, without the full support of a up or down parliamentary vote. So basically, Macron just did whatever the fuck he wanted to do, and the French are not with that shit. And unlike the U.S., the French will go out into the streets and tear shit up. Now, I know the conservative arm of American politics would say, well, you know, the Black Lives Matter in 2020, they destroyed cities, burned down cities. They don't ever have shit to say about what France does. When French get out into the Champs-Elysees, wherever else they be tearing up, the conservative right really doesn't have a lot of commentary about that. But I guess maybe they don't want their audience to be aware that France is actually doing that. Or maybe they look at French, which I'm sure they do, as a far left wing, whatever the fuck. And of course, they're rabble rousers. But no, if you want to talk about the Western interpretation of democracy, France started that, and they worsened it with colonization and their participation within the transatlantic slave trade. So any good that might have come out of so-called French democracy, colonization and the fucking slave trade fucking ruined that shit. And the ongoing neo-colonialism of the Caribbean and in parts of Africa, yeah, France sucks. But I love to see the domestic French getting out to the streets and tear shit up. So I want us to take a look at a couple of videos that we were able to find. And trust me, there's lots of videos. But then there's some sub actions happening even within this bigger action. But first, let's take a look at these pictures of some of the protest scenes. I'm not calling them riots. the mainstream that I was able to say, I was watching Sky News, and it appears as though the protests have turned into riots, cars burning, buildings, windows being smashed. I said, okay, whatever. So anyway, let's take a look at the pictures of the protest scenes coming out of Paris this week. don't speak the best French, but I'm pretty sure they were saying, "Hurry up, tear shit up, everybody, burn it down." That's not what they were saying. That's not what they were saying. But anyway, and again, to me, those were even some of the tame scenes. And big up to Al Jazeera English for that very first clip, very dramatic and spooky with all the flames and shit burning at night. I'm like, Al Jazz, okay, calm down. This is not a Netflix dramatic special. But no, I mean, real scenes and real pictures there coming out of Paris as the people take to the streets by the millions. And even within some of these stated demonstrations, again, protesting the policies of austerity pertaining to the French's retirement age, courtesy of Emmanuel Macron. There's even some other actions within the actions. Now, Will, pop up that video where it says flash and then it has a hashtag, it's a French word, and it says the strike will be extended until Wednesday in Paris. Now this video doesn't have any sound, so just go ahead and run it and I will talk over it, because even as the people in France, in Paris, have taken to the streets to protest these policies of austerity. Yeah, look at this, you guys. This is thousands of pounds of uncollected rubbish, of uncollected refuse. Piling up on the streets of Paris. Why? Because the sanitation workers have gone on strike to stand in solidarity with the other movements, the other actions that are happening across the country, not just in Paris again, but especially in Paris. And let me tell y'all, the Parisian bougies are pissed. They are mad. They are mad at this ongoing sanitation worker strike. And now the strike has been extended until next week. So, according to this tweet here, from CAFIA France, a news agency, says that more than 5,400 tons of waste have been accumulating in the streets of the capitale. Oui, oui. And the bourgeoisie, they are très angry. Ooh. Ils sont très upset. They are very upset. Ils sont très tristes. My French is terrible. Jesus. Anyway, so even within that, so shout out to the French sanitation workers. Don't pick up literally shit. don't pick up shit until Macron gets his shit together and make sure that it give the people exactly what they want. But even within that, there is another point of contention. Well, first of all, there's several ongoing points of contention always going on in France. A big up to the radical left, and especially to the African radicals, the Black French radicals out there who continue to organize and mobilize around a bunch of issues, including systemic racism, including police violence. Even in some of those scenes coming out of Paris, the police were there tear gassing folks. I don't know if any police is as brutal as American police. I mean, I'm sure there are. I mean, that's a sort of a naive statement, but I seem to think, well, I mean, American police shoot actual bullets. I don't know what the fuck they shoot in France, but they were shooting tear gas, which is chemical warfare. Let's make no mistake about that. But they're also the black radicals that is in France. They are organizing and trying to fight against these inhumane immigration policies that really the whole of Western Europe are just treating the migrants who are trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea, largely from Africa, even some coming from places like Afghanistan and Pakistan, letting migrants die, drown by the thousands, children included in that number. And that is a policy decision, much like what is happening at the southern border of the United States, where children were being the whole kids in cages shit, and keeping people at bay who are seeking legitimate asylum claims. These are policy decisions. People die not because these countries are poor, i.e., the United States and France, not because we can't not accommodate them, because racism dictates that we treat black people and brown people as less than, and France is extremely complicit in that. But there's something else going on that they're organizing against. Yeah, let's say against. I think against is fair. There's a tweet there. Pop open that tweet for me, because it says so. I'm gonna read the tweet in a moment. But yeah, just hold it up there for a second. Hold it up there for a second, because as you guys know, Paris is expecting the 2024 Summer Olympics and Paralympics. And as which happens, as we've covered here on this channel, when the Super Bowl comes to town, or like what's going to happen in Los Angeles, I believe in is it 2028? It's soon. It'll be here before we know it. The Olympics there, where homeless people get displaced, where gentrification gets accelerated to hasten the building and the accommodation of venues for the Olympics and to make sure that the Olympics get funding and then the police get additional funding to rid the city of so-called undesirables. Well, in addition to that, what the planners and organizers of the Paris Olympics are going to do, what France intends to do, is to make this an opportunity to expand their surveillance state. So, who posted this tweet? Let's see. It says today 38 international organizations denounced the domestic surveillance of the JO. So when you guys see JO is Jeux Olympiques. So when you say JO, that's what they mean en français, the JO, the Jeux Olympiques. So this bill is called Article 7. And what it intends to do, it intends to make France the first European country to legalize algorithmic video surveillance. I can only assume, I can only assume algorithmic video surveillance means let the camera zoom in on every black and brown face 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 times. They're using this under the guise of security, obviously, for the Olympics. But what this will do, it will expand the surveillance powers of France to secure millions and the facial and the biometric data of millions of tourists that are expected to come to the 2024 Paris Summer Olympics. So hold on, let me pick up this piece really quick from Politico because they did a piece about this. Well, I don't have that on the doc, so don't look for it. But it says among the plans for the large scale real time camera system supported by an algorithm to spot suspicious behavior, including unsupervised luggage. And what did I say? And alarming crowd movements like stampedes. Yes. Senators on Wednesday, this was back in January, will vote on a law introducing that these new powers into which is supposed to be temporary, by the way. It is not going to be temporary with some lawmakers pushing to allow the controversial facial recognition technology to move forward. So what has happened is that I believe the French Senate has already approved this, and now it's supposed to go to yet another branch of the French government. But organizers are and international organizations truly across the globe are calling for no on Article 7, hashtag no on Article 7. Now, this shit must be bad. And I have to admit, like, I'm not fully grasping the context here, but it must be bad because we know that when it comes to biometric data and video surveillance, I mean, Europe, Europe is right there underneath China. Not to say that America is not equally as bad, but Europe has been way out in front of the gathering of facial recognition and biometric data collection for some time. So you can only imagine how much further that these new powers must go for French people to be so alarmed by this, considering how accustomed they must be to it already in their everyday lives. But this new expanded powers must be something pretty unfathomable. And I can only assume, again, as all of these technologies, because the main people that are in the tech fields are non-black, non-brown. So they bring their predetermined racial biases with them to the job when they start coding. And they say, who looks scary? Oh, Jean-Jacques, oh yeah, Jean-Jacques, brown, got big nose. Put him under the scary. Let's make those scary characteristics. And and it goes on from there. So the people that are coming into town, I guess, for the for the 2024 Olympics, I hope all of this civil disobedience and civil disruption will actually disrupt that shit. They had a number of rolling road closures. Again, a lot of the shit I saw on social media was all in French, so I'm hitting that Google Translate like what, but they had a bunch of road closures because of the protests that were intentionally targeting some of the venues where the Jeux Olympiques will be held next year. So what if they are able to fully disrupt the Olympics? Do you think the French police will start shooting real bullets? They probably will start shooting the real bullets. Yep, and use that facial recognition to direct them to all the Negroes. Yes, put them right there. But here's the thing, y'all. Again, France, they do this. They get out in the streets and they will tear shit up. Since 2020, the willingness to get out in the streets and tear shit up does not seem to be there in America. Regarding the movement of Black lives, regarding the environmental crisis and catastrophes that we find ourselves in, regardless of the wars that the United States is doing. I mean, yeah, there's been some rallies and there's been some protests, but not like that we have seen here in 2020. And even as a nod to the 20th anniversary of the invasion of the war in Iraq, which I know, what was it, the People's Forum and Black Alliance for Peace are doing some actions this weekend in Washington, D.C. to commemorate the anniversary of the genocide of truly hundreds of thousands of Iraqi children, and the murder of millions of Iraqi citizens, and the displacement and the destruction that the United States and its allies, but led by the United States, did to Iraq. I mean, I was in them protests 20 plus years ago. They were millions of people, but we didn't tear shit up. Shit, to my recollection, shit did not get tore up, and the war went onward. The problem is, in France, the government, I believe, is afraid of the people. In the United States, the government is not afraid of the people. And that's where we need to change that power dynamic. Like, and I'm not exactly sure how to do that, because the last time people were in the streets en masse in 2020, defund the police became a very notable. Because you could tell I'm trying not to say slogan, right? I do not want to say slogan, but fuck it. Okay, policy demand became a notable policy demand that people happened to be screaming in chants when they were in the streets doing those protests. And what happened? The exact opposite. Police got funded more to the hilt. Police forces were expanded. The U.S. Capitol Police Force expanded after white supremacists tried to take down the Capitol. I was rooting for them too, but regardless, American government ain't scared of us because they will shoot us. And I think that is a big difference, I think, between when there are actions that happen, especially in Europe, Western Europe. I'm talking about the West here, because we know that when the people of Peru, or when the people of Brazil, or when the people of Guatemala will rise up, their governments will absolutely shoot at them. But looking at these Western industrialized countries, if America includes itself with Western Europe in that sense, that is a big difference in the mindset of the people, I believe, because them people, the Britons, the French, whoever, will go to the streets and not even consider that police would murder them, right? Or maybe the white ones don't think. maybe the black ones know better. I'm sure the Africans know better, but that's not what they do. They do not bang on the people in the same at the same rates that American police will bang on the people here. So I think culturally that is some differences, but I think, how can we shift that? Like, how can we make the state afraid of us and capitulate to us and do what we want them to do? The resistance that is still happening with the Stop Cop City movement, again, is going to be one that is going to tell the tale, I think, for the coming decades, about what the resistance movement and the leftist organizers are going to face. I can't even say coming decades, for shit, in the coming fucking months. We got 20 of our comrades charged with domestic violence. No, sorry, not domestic violence. My apologies. Domestic terrorism. Also Also violence. It is definitely also violence. I want to see Americans out in the street, but I'm afraid that we are too complacent, way too comfortable, and again, too afraid of the state ourselves to actually stand up to the state in any meaningful way. And the ways in which these movements have been suppressed and repressed, the overcharging of protesters defending the Atlanta forest, the ways in which the police came out and cracked down so heavily on the movements for Black Lives in 2020. I don't know. But I do have a theory coming up a little bit later in the show as to what could kick off a revolution of sorts. And I think if Joe Biden bans TikTok, I think everybody 25 and older, I mean, pardon me, younger, 25 and younger, I think that could be the kindling, the spark, perhaps, that the powder keg, the potential of a powder keg of a revolution needs. So we'll get into that in just a moment.